upset for the day, or if DarkZero will give us the expected result and shut things down here. The bans are live, no surprises to start things out, as a Maverick is going to be eliminated to make that job of opening things up for CCTV upstairs a little bit more of a pesky job, excuse me.
Absolutely. Now, what's going to be the other offensive ban? This will tell the tape of the offense. It's going to be Habana, more focally pointed towards the hatch play here. Try and get rid of some of those X-Kairos that make it so very easy to try and get those hatches open with how you can choose the different patterns for her X-Kairos. So Zamir is going to follow through here for Beast Coast on the defense, one of the most solid defenders that we have available in the defensive pool now, and more than likely I'd say Mira probably going away here. Thatcher's on the board and everything else, so might see a Kaid ban maybe, and yeah, actually that is what we're going to get. So Kaid off now. Don't want to try and deal with him around walls, but the big thing is that DZ, at least for their last matchup, were looking a lot more solid on defense than they were on offense. It's actually where the Soniqs were able to deal a majority of their damage was the defense, as DZ was only able to put up one round on that half. So now starting off on the defensive end could make things a little bit easier for them to at least get the ball rolling.
Basement start, as you would generally expect here for Clubhouses. That is going to be very much that bunker that we can see our defenders lock themselves into in this round. Shouldn't really be any exception from that. Skies, I believe, is going to get a little bit adventurous there on the alibi. We can expect maybe one or two additional players on DC to do the same, but they will eventually make a resounding return to the basement to hold things off here, excuse me, for an extended play. Meanwhile, over on Beast Coast side of things, we are bringing a very, very generic lineup of attacking operators. No reason why I would expect this to change, but if they spot anything they feel they need a little bit of extra utility for, they of course have the repick as an option for the next 10 or so seconds.
You know, love the double hard breach here, backing that up with some info as well as some frag grenades out of Anthony. We need to have a big game out of him today, especially running that Yana. That Air X is going to be quite useful in a lot of these gunfights, but as for the DZ camp, I love Skies in the position that he's playing for this squad, especially as kind of, you know, victory lap kind of, you know, thing that he has going on right now for his Siege career. He's kind of got Siege on a back burner right now. He's been asked to step back in for DarkZero, and not only that, but into more of a role that we saw him at the start of his career with teams like Elevate and teams like Obey Alliance, where he played a lot more of an aggressive role. Not only that, but he was quite good at it, you know, back in the day. So we'll see how that works out for them. Skies is currently going to be at the bottom of the red stairwell here, waiting any BC member around the secret stairs.
We'll see a pretty slow wind-up regardless here. NJ are more likely going to be spotted out by this drone presence in just a moment. As I'm assuming, of course, there wasn't disruption sitting in the way, but Beast Coast will strike first here, catching the roaming mutant Canadian, sending him down and giving Beast Coast an opening 5v4 advantage to play with.
Well, they've gotten the initial pick here, but how is Beast Coast going to translate this? NGR staying aggressive towards the top of main. Xeno flirting back and forth with it, but won't get too aggressive. Wants to try and make sure that there's no more supporting units from DarkZero, and there is not, as the majority of them have rotated their way back downstairs. They'll give Beast Coast the map, but that doesn't mean that they've been able to clear it out just yet. They have to make sure to cross their T's and dot their I's before they get too far ahead of themselves and potentially lose bodies because of it.
It's all gone very, very quiet, especially from DZ's side of things after we've seen the loss of Canadian here. Definitely going to be wanting to take a very careful note of it. So they don't fall back even further than this, as that can make the bunker inside of the site itself downstairs for the basement quite weak and allow Beast Coast to get away with an opening round here. Aside from that, though, not going to see anyone taking any incredulous risks on the DZ side, just kind of showing their face, trying to slow things down from Beast Coast wherever they can. Overall, trying to get a better sense of where this attacking setup may be drifting towards. Should have been a pretty good idea now, as they've taken full control of the first as well as second floor. Just need to make that transition into the basement and take out the remnants of DZ's defense down.
DarkZero have some great crosses downstairs right now, though, and Beast Coast have got to disrupt these. Xeno, I don't know if he's fully out of utility. He's really going to want those concussions to try and apply pressure to some of this defensive setup of DarkZero. They still have some frag grenades and some stuns out of Slash, though, to try and assist the push. But Mark instead will do it through firepower. He takes down Pambazoo and weakens the defense yet again.
Nice swing from Skies there. Is able to catch Surf before he even gets a sense of what's going on down in the basement, wrapping around that final corner of the main stairway. That brings Beast Coast still into a +1 advantage situation, but no longer that outright win that they were looking for. NJR with a very closely won fight, but a much more solid one right after that to knock out Zeno. Leaves it on Mark as well as Slash here, as it's brought down to a 2v1 here. Slash inside of the site. He has the capability to throw the case down on the ground, just not really the time or the positioning to do so. More likely going to be allowed to get away with it, but just as I say that, Skies sneaks in from the back flank over by main stairs and shuts it all down, locking in round number 1 for DZ.
Cool, calm, and collected for DarkZero. Love the transition back to the site and playing their crosses for the entry for Beast Coast. Yeah, Beast Coast have the entire map, but that doesn't mean that they have the means to actually get onto site. They have to take these fights, and DarkZero are much more prepared than BC is, especially for NJR's positioning around blue. He gets 2 isolated fights, and those are the words you never want to hear, especially uttered immediately after NJR, because it usually means he's gotten away with murder, John, and that's exactly what he's done in this instance. 2 people gunned down in blue for Beast Coast. DarkZero pulled the rug out from under them. They thought they had the round in the bag. They just had to try and go in and grasp it away from DZ and their remaining setup on site, but it was too strong to deal with. And now DarkZero will try and back this up on the CCTV defense.
Usual shift from DarkZero up to the secondary expected site. We will see some changes coming into the Beast Coast lineup on repick to account for that. Quite a few of them, in fact.
What are we doing here?
Go ahead.
This is going to be fun. I see how this could go wrong in so many different ways, but like there's also so many ways that it could go right. This is going to be a little crazy. I really want to see what Slash wants to do with the smokes here, because obviously Anthony is supposed to play along with him to try and look through those and have some sort of influence. At least just looking at it and using my Siege brain, it really feels like they'd want garage control here to try and play from rafters, smoke across, force the defenders to try and move through that smoke or challenge through it, and allow Glass to do what he does best and start shooting some bananas. But we'll have to see what Beast Coast want to do with this. They've brought a lot of secondary hard breach here, so it's going to open up quite a few different avenues for them to try and abuse.
Sky's continuing to wait for that first bit of pressure to work itself over towards the garage doorway. Not going to be able to find it so easily. Beast Coast obviously taking a bit more of a cautious note this time. With that said, they get a good amount of intel as to what that interior site setup looks like here towards CCTV. And they've got another good drone established by Anthony here as well. So lots of Overwatch already with all the intel they need. Just need to pull the trigger now.
I just noticed something really, really big about BC's lineup. They didn't bring any burn, and not only is there a Jaeger, but there's also a Wamai in play. So that means that potentially a decent amount of Slash's utility could get eaten up. Also, Surf is now dead to the world. Don't exactly know where that happened, but that's Capcan gone. No more smoke play, and that should be a bandit trick here. Yes, it's done. Canadian getting away with so much. He's going to swing into Zeno, gets gunned down, but it's a pretty even trade here. The only piece of hard breach utility left is Slash's pocket.
Important to keep in mind, of course, that Surf was also lost earlier in the rounds. They've already gotten rid of the Capital bullets that would have certainly been needed for Beast Coast to get a proper execute going here into the site. There's micro smokes to block off the line of sight from deeper into cache, alongside, of course, the incendiaries being able to force players out of position. Do not have that as an option now, and certainly is going to be missed as we see Skies and the rest of the team trying to line things up. Anthony, as well, as first smoke has been chucked out through the very small breach they've made for themselves. We're going to see a green screen deployed into that as well, just to add extra obscurity for the DZ side, make them uncertain of any play potential they may have inside of that positioning on the site. And as such, it's going to certainly cause them to keep this very, very passive position maintained, but Beast Coast doesn't really seem too confident in their own push behind this either. Most of that utility already having been deployed. I think they may have 1 or 2 additional smokes to try and chuck out here, but for the most part, no, never mind. Looking at it now, the last green screen just went out for Slash, and now he's dead. So, unfortunately, the gambit in the utility department for Beast Coast just has not really worked out. Maybe an opportunity for Zeno to trade it out, and indeed, he will find it. Gets himself that catwalk access, so maybe, just maybe, BC will still have a way to win this one out.
Well, they're still going to have Anthony on the cross, but not only that, Anthony actually has to try and commit through this rotation. Such a dangerous way to try and get into the site, but fortunately enough, Beast Coast have dealt some serious damage to DarkZero's setup. They'll take down NJR. It's a triple kill for Zeno. His best play of the entire stage thus far, but Eclipse is trying to rip it from their hands. He'll take down one, no longer having smoke utility. Mark will deal the death blow, and Beast Coast will get their round.
So nice trade from Beast Coast there, and some really good fragging, just some good marksmanship skills coming in from Xeno, specifically being able to spot out the mistakes from DZ, capitalize on one DZ may have gotten a little bit too overzealous about themselves and made sure they'd be put right back in their place for the team to shut down this round.
Quickly, but I do believe that one of the, I think the only successful defense that XSET had was actually a bar gaming, well, actually, it is bar gaming on this one, isn't it?
Bar stage.
Bar stage. Yeah. We have so many bars in this game.
There's a gaming, like, right next to somewhere in there.
I mean, pool's gaming, right?
Yeah.
It's an esport, I think. Just something like that. No, DarkZero are going to be going for this mid-floor defense, but not only that, they're going to be going with so much information, and that's really what you want on a site setup like this. You really need to know where the entry points are going to be from the offense, how you're going to be able to delay them, how you're going to get in the way of them on something like a top floor clear, things along those lines. And Beast Coast are going to be bringing a lot to the table to try and assist with this. We have the Flores for a lot of those hard-to-reach places with, deployable shields and whatever else DZ want to try and throw at them, but we also have things like Nook as well as Lion to either lock them down in the case of Lion or slink in that back door and try and deal with characters like Canadian on Echo that could potentially be over in Strip.
Either way, it's a very, very complicated setup that teams will have to go for on this hold, and I think that's kind of the hope from DZ, is they're hoping that things will get to be a little bit too complex for BC to properly tear apart. We'll have to wait and see how that's going to work out. Of course, Anthony has brought the Nook into the fold alongside a few other wrinkles for Beast Coast, such as the Lion, alongside, of course, the Flores there too. We talked about him on our previous match about how he can be very useful for knocking out utility on more centered rooms inside of the building that you may not be able to just chuck a nade into from an outside window or something similar to that. So that's why we're going to see him brought in for this time by Xeno, and see what he can work towards. Eclipse actually feeling himself a little bit here. He's going to waltz right up to the new breach that's been made over on Jacuzzi balcony.
Oh, no.
Won't be able to find a mark with the shotgun, but the Nitro will sing true to knock out Slash, as he's going to be stuck on drone still.
To this day, I still hate Jacuzzi balcony. That place is just terrible to play. Whether you're, trying to climb up the side of the building, you're repelled or what have you, just so many different angles the defense can try and abuse you from, especially if you get caught off guard like that, right? Like, he has Mark above him, but Mark isn't in an advantageous position. The only fortunate thing that Beast Coast have going for them there is that Slash already got the wall open. So they don't have to worry too much about that. They don't have to dedicate more of Surf's utility to try and assist with that wall. So he can try and, open up some other avenues for them to work themselves through. And speaking of working their way through, Anthony's going to get gunned down from Skies, who's holding things down inside of logistics. DarkZero making mincemeat out of Beast Coast. It's down to just Surf. He's going to go for a swing onto, I do believe, Skies. Nope, it's going to be Pambazoo on the alibi this time around instead. Skies got an MPX and some very nice blonde hair. And Valkyrie will be awaiting Surf as well. He's going to work his way in through Jacuzzi, but really nothing to find. Doesn't even have the case as of right now. That's actually still outside. We'll have to see how far he can get down this path.
Yeah, unfortunately, overall in this round, Beast Coast just kind of playing directly into the hands of DarkZero right from the very start of it, opening up Jacuzzi balcony, trying to play into the extended setup that was basically made to waste time at the end of the day. So that's exactly what they do. The Nitro kill, is perfect, of course, to be able to take things down right at the start. And then there was a hope, I believe, in Beast Coast comms that Anthony would have been able to make impact on the flank, and there was good reason for Anthony himself to believe he would have been able to do it. Got himself all the way through construction and, of course, CCTV without too much of a problem. So he's like, oh yeah, there's no way they know I'm coming. Unfortunately, he learns a lesson very quickly. As soon as he makes a step into logistics, he is shut down. Rest of the team is still operating under the assumption like, oh, he's got our back flank, we're good to make a move here, and unfortunately just falls to pieces from that point forward.
Well, the other thing is you got to give it up to Skies in that for that sixth sense for the construction rotate, but also on top of that, a quick reminder, Nook isn't as quiet doing certain things as she is doing other things. So the fact that she had to hop through that rotation was actually the giveaway that Nook is more than likely around, or somebody is around logistics. And that's why Sky starts motioning that way. He more than likely heard that hop inside of red into logistics, and he was like, oh, that's not supposed to be happening. He was over here. And he finds himself a Nook. So Anthony gets caught off guard trying to make that play. And honestly, it was pretty good timing with what was going on with Beast Coast, over by the breach. But you got to get those kills, man. That's that game-changing moment right there. Anthony gets Skies, and now DarkZero have to worry about two different fronts at the same time, but instead he shuts that down immediately, and now there's just some people outside of a wall that's, really easy to die from if you try and push.
DC making their return now to the basement site, as of course they closed that one out to start this matchup up and then went upstairs into CCTV. That is where, of course, Beast Coast found their own success and was able to take a round for themselves. And then we finished out the rotation for DZ, of course, back down in bar and stage where just the last round unfolds. So now finally going to make a repeat of that rotation, heading back down to the basement for the first time since round number 1. We'll see if they'll find success and be able to lock in a 3-1 scoreline, really starting to take control of the lead here, or if Beast Coast will be able to keep it close and make some corrections for their last attempt. Gonna be tough to do, as once again, there's many elements to deal with in this clear, including Canadian roaming out and about here on the first floor. With that said, though, credit to Beast Coast, they already dealt with this pretty easily back on round number 1, so it's just a repeat process here now.
And if you do remember back to the game that DZ ended up losing against the Soniqs, we saw Canadian in a very similar position. So not only do we can we kind of look forward into the round and see what's happening, but also Beast Coast more than likely having some research done on this setup. So they should know that's a pretty stacked roam game here, all supporting Canadian. You have that player up top holding on red, but Canadian's been able to work this position time and time again and able to get quite a bit done with it. We did see one round specifically go awry there where he wasn't able to rotate back to site and help them in any influential way, and it ended up with Canadian being the lone soul off of site. But up against Beast Coast, this roam game already starting to pay off as this timer continues to dwindle. We're almost about halfway through the round already.
Indeed, as Beast Coast taking a very slow route on this one here, mainly due to the massive amount of movement we're seeing from DarkZero all across the map right now, whether it's Canadian or someone else. It won't matter, apparently, as Surf's just going to insert himself inside of Stock downstairs and knock out Canadian once again, as he just cannot get away with anything at the start of these rounds. Nice Nitro to follow up. Unfortunately, Surf reads into that one and is able to get to a safe distance.
The good news is that there's quite a bit of damage dealt to Surf. Canadian already practically got his job done. There's going to be down some goo mines and another gun at the end of the day. This is completely doable for DarkZero, and in fact, this looks quite similar to what we had seen previously. Beast Coast up on man advantage, but the timer is the factor here. We know that DZ in these low times are very good at holding these crosses on site and can get some very big kills onto BC. I believe that was Anthony's clone working its way through blue, but he'll discover nothing as the majority of these DZ players are hampering down inside of Church, as the Church wall is actually going to get decimated by 3 separate Selma charges.
Clip's going to get hyper-aggressive in this as well. Wants to try and stem the tide as much as possible, as he's going to lose a lot of real estate if he gives up this ground. At the moment, it's working, holding back Zeno and I believe one other member of the Beast Coast roster. At the same time, DZ had outright taken down another member of the team on the back flank, but now Mark going to be able to make his own insertion. And finally, Eclipse will also fall due to Blue being accessible by the rest of this team as well, but time very, very low. Mark needs to secure it now, and thankfully that actually won't be needed. Anthony will shut it out instead as Beast Coast claim a second attacking round.
Very well done from BC. There was definitely some moments there that if DZ were able to land some crucial shots, we more than likely see a different result, but Beast Coast able to mitigate damage on their entry. And not only that, Anthony finally able to make a backdoor play. He vents right in behind him into blue, able to take down the last 2 members of DarkZero. So Beast Coast tie things up. It looks like we're going to have a ball game here on Coast, or on Coast, oh my goodness, on Clubhouse. It's Beast Coast's fault. They have Coast in their name.
Yeah.
They just had to take out Coastline, right? They just had to make it harder for everybody.
So DZ going to make that reattempt onto the basement hold. Not going to see any huge departure from the operator lineup just yet. And the same what we said for Beast Coast, of course, since they won, of course. So why would they change anything up since it worked for them? Away from that, though, DZ curious to see if they'll try to pull back the aggression at all. It's been 2 times now the Canadian's been caught out on a roam game. To be fair, the last round wasted a good amount of time, and as you said, traded some good damage, but it still left the team all that much weaker when it came to the actual site execute. So a possibility we could see that called back a little bit, or potentially doubled down upon, as of course we're seeing him set up his own utility back upstairs in gym now, so we could be seeing that bit of an extension for the team to play this one out yet again and try to waste all that time. This time hopefully able to actually catch Beast Coast when they get to the point that they're ready to attack the basement.
Well, DZ showing a very similar face to what we'd seen previously, but Beast Coast going to be shifting gears here. Anthony's going to have Doke now, and this is going to throw a wrench into the cogs of DarkZero's plan. Anthony, with those logic bombs, is not only going to be able to send a call sign throughout the entire map, making the clear easier for Beast Coast, but he'll also be taking all of the info game away from DarkZero. Nobody can any longer be on cameras or anything of the sort, as Dokkaebi rips that ability away. And make sure that even if you are on Do Not Disturb, you are getting those notifications. So Beast Coast, with that in mind, will start up the clear after that first logic bomb. They know that the majority of this is dealt with. Zeno obviously still worried about these stairwells and the potential for DarkZero members to be lying in wait.
Already a minute gone by. Not a whole lot of clear has been accomplished just yet by Beast Coast, but we're going to see that pace increase quite rapidly now that the time is starting to shrink down a little bit lower. Mark starting to open up the windows, of course, leading into both stock as well as the inside of kitchen. Trying to potentially set himself up for some openings there if they want to try to play the top downs. We haven't really seen BC shift into that mindset yet where they really want to try to play onto that and optimize their nade usage. Of course, not really going to see any frags brought anyway, so more than likely going to be avoiding it as a result of that. Canadian still waiting for this play to potentially open up those. He's prime with the nitro cell, ready to send it back. The first person to try to slaps open the floor above him, but as I was just mentioning, Beast Coast not really playing into that too much. Probably not going to be a lot of play opportunity here for Canadian. Zeno will take a large amount of damage, I believe, as he tries to take his first steps out at the bottom of main stairs there. He'll be dropped down to about 50 HP from that play.
Oh, this is going to be difficult for Beast Coast, John. They're flying blind here. Look at the drone count. Only 2 drones remaining, and Zeno's piloting one of them. So fortunately enough, they'll at least know where Pambazoo is, and kind of what Canadian's doing in the back of Armory, but its last drone, at least its last leg, now down inside of Church. They have an impact to try and deal with that Selma. Pambazoo, I do believe, trying to get the last drone. He won't be able to stifle it. Instead, it's going to be the pressure from Beast Coast. They have to swing into this, and they've caught them off guard, but oh no, it's actually going to be the Prisma to assist in taking down the member of Beast Coast. The only person in that room that wasn't Rio gets a bullet through the brain, and BC are left because of it. NJR will take down one. It's up to Mark as he's going to try and clamber down the stairwell for main, but he realizes the case is over on the Moto's side, so he's going to shift over and try and play through this hatch instead. He'll more than likely drop into his demise. His bullets fly back and forth, but fortunately for Mark's sake, he will stay alive. He does have those EMPs, but Sky's there for the kill and the assist from the remaining members of DarkZero. A bang-up job in that round for DZ.
Fortunately, it's not a whole lot of play potential for Mark. You saw him taking up position in the kitchen. I mentioned it earlier, too, about when we were actually going to be seeing those holes being made to potentially flush out Canadian or anybody else who wanted to play deep into Arsenal, but shows up just way too late, unfortunately, and the support is nowhere near enough. The team was struggling in other areas as well, such as that wall leading into Church coming out through the bottom of the stairs from Moto. So, once again, a lot of problems that Beast Coast had to deal with and just not enough time to properly locate them. So, DZ finally gets a successful basement defense, second one that is for themselves, and they're going to move upstairs here into Jam and Bedroom for the first time in this half on the final round of the half.
Yeah, pretty awkward round there for Beast Coast, especially when it finally came down to the entry, right? Just no info game to really influence
also,
anything.
Like, no one really seemed like they wanted to go in. Like, it didn't really seem like they were ready for it, basically.
Yeah, very, very low time. No one really wanted to take those fights, and finally when they do, they shoot the only thing that isn't a real person. You really got to feel for Beast Coast on that entry there for Church, because, you know, if they do get that initial kill onto DarkZero, and there is a very big chance that they do, because all of DZ weren't suspecting them, even at a low time there, which was a little awkward for me personally, just no one watching the Moto door, and there's like 20 seconds left, but it is what it is. DZ are still able to take down Beast Coast because of those missteps, and now they're shifting upstairs to try and take control of Gym and Bedroom.
The usual suspect here on the defense for a Gym and Bedroom defense. We're actually going to have a pulse coming in there for Canadian as well.
No Frost, though.
Yeah, no Frost to try and fend off some of those early rotates. You'll get into areas like Logi and whatnot, so that's where Canadian will more than likely take its place in the pulse and try and give them better intel. But what are we going on over here towards the main stairs? Oh, Nitro Cell goes flying as well. A little bit too far off the mark, though, as I think the timing works out for Beast Coast, and they're able to avoid a premature death.
That was a pretty good pun, as that actually was Mark that climbed up the side of that building. So I know you didn't, mean to do it, but it was still very well accepted. Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Gonna have the pulse play here for Jacuzzi, but we do know how this went the last time. Slash more than likely aware that he could be blown sky high yet again. You can see him just waiting for any of the BC team to actually rotate and assist him with this wall. We do have the Selmas eating up the other side of the building, getting CCTV open, Logi hatch already done. So Beast Coast, at least for the early game, getting all of their boxes checked. It seems like the Jacuzzi wall will more than likely be the last effort.
Let's get great intel coming out from Canadian. Knows for sure they've got the setup ready to go and ready to more than likely open up this wall at a moment's notice. They're going to make the attempt for it now. Canadian here still in the hot zone. Going to try to give out the intel on a moment-by-moment basis. It just does not work. Fading over kills Zeno. It's Slash that gets the third one there. Not Zeno's. Some good support as he very well may have saved Zeno's life here. He's not going to take a risk on that, though, at this point. Needs someone else to establish the cross before he can potentially go back to pick up his teammate. But either way, the damage is done, and an overzealous DarkZero DarkZero has paid the price.
You can say that again. 3 people occupying the same wall and their fate all the same, all just to get Zeno down. And he's been picked back up, so it's still a 5 versus 2, make it a 5 versus 1 after Eclipse loses his head. It's all up to Skies. Frag grenade here, holding him for CCTV. Tries to turn on a dime, but Surf will get him instead. It's a flawless round for Beast Coast.
So that'll tie us up, I believe, at 3-3. Nicely done from Beast Coast here on that round specifically. Unfortunately, DarkZero kind of setting themselves up for that one as they take the challenge. You're going to see it here on the replay. Walking out through Jacuzzi. Obviously, the players on Beast Coast are more than ready for that, even with the Pulse Intel coming out. So this play from DZ, unfortunately, just sets them up for defeat.
Well, it does actually look like Beast Coast have taken their sensu beans, my friend, because as of now, they have officially matched the same amount of rounds that they had throughout the entirety of Stage 3 in one game. I mean, you can laugh if you want to. That's crazy. The fact that they only had 3 rounds in the first 2 games and now up against DarkZero is 3-3 on Clubhouse. And you got to remember, Canadian specifically, not a slouch on this map. This is probably one of his best shot-calling maps that he has in his arsenal.
So we'll see if Beast Coast can find as much strength on the defensive side now. As generally speaking, this map does tend to trend a little bit more towards the defenders. Obviously, with the new patch in play, some of that gets shaken up into the air from time to time with metas shifting around as well. I haven't seen this map played out too much just yet, but again, given the tradition, no reason why we'd expect for it to depart too heavily from its defender-sided nature. So Beast Coast probably feeling very happy about themselves that they're able to equalize the scoreline coming off their own attacking side. Now can potentially take an early lead with a successful basement defense, if they can get that, of course.
Yes, indeed. Beast Coast start off on the right foot for their offensive side, but can they do it for the defense? It's going to be an extended hold here all the way upstairs, as to be expected for Club. They want to try and delay as long as they can on this DZ offense. This will attempt to clear the building. Beast Coast are going to have a couple of very similar pillars, minus the Goyo. That's not something we saw very often, but neither did NJR till a moment ago when he lost the gun battle up against Surf. We'll end up getting the opener for the defense. DarkZero haven't even begun breaking up this top floor, and they're already down one of their most crucial ops.
Certainly not the greatest start to things for DarkZero. Unfortunately, not going to have the easiest time trying to hunt down the extended game as a result of that one. You mentioned it there. The Jackal now being eliminated gives free roam capability to Mark and anyone else that's still positioning themselves on the first and second floor to try and waste out that additional time. Already a minute gone from the clock here. And plenty more still to be drained out due to the very slow pace that DZ will have to have on their own clear due to the result of the lost NJR.
Well, Eclipse knew just how aggro Beast Coast could have potentially have been there, and will hightail it away before he blows the CCTV wall. But DZ, they're starting to get taken down from off of sight now. Nitro cells are bound to at least be able to secure one, and now Surf taking some heat from the DZ angle, but they haven't been able to secure it just yet. Sky is constantly moving back and forth inside of Garage as well, but he hasn't found a means to actually work his way forward and get anything worthwhile done for DarkZero. He's going to be able to at least get rid of the Banshee here inside of Blue, but obviously that massive explosion will give away his positioning, and they'll more than likely be aware that a member of DarkZero wants to try and get control of Blue. All the while, this timer continues to eat at the sides of DarkZero. Pambazoo will be able to pick up at least one member, trying to bring this back to a much more even playing field, but as of now, still down 4-3.
Sky's going to be waiting for an opportunity to strike back, but Panba will end up finding it first, knocking out Mark, and another one for Panba as well, as he's been unleashed on the interior of the site. He will be caught by Zeno, of course, trying to go a little bit deeper there to move himself all the way into Church, but regardless, an opportunity has been opened up. Sky's a nice pick as well, looking for one more, and he really gets it, but what's more important is he's allowed for this to happen. Eclipse gets the plant, and even better, is able to get the follow-through to take out the last player alive on Beast Coast as well. DarkZero with a rocky few rounds here, but they are able to rebound on the first of their attack to still maintain the lead at 4-3.
You got to give it up to DarkZero for the ultimate patience game there. You know, not really able to get too much done in the first minute and a half, but really pulling it back when they needed it most, especially for Pambazoo on the entry to the actual site. And that's not a position that's easy to get that done either. He's playing that strictly off of the kitchen hash, which, if you're playing the basement, that is the one thing that every defender is so very aware of. Somebody's going to potentially drop from here, somebody's going to take an angle or anything in between, but yet Pambazoo still able to muster a triple kill for DarkZero. Not only that, set them up for victory, distracting quite a few people, allowing Skies to finally slip through the cracks into blue and have some serious influence over Xeno's position. Very well done from DZ as we move into round 8.
So with DZ back in control of the lead, they're going to need to take control of their operator lineup here as well. I believe they made the assumption that beastcoast were going to switch to an upstairs hold instead of CCTV. That would explain, of course, we had a few of these more interesting picks coming in specifically for Canadian there, but they're going to end up re-picking it. NJR back on the Jackal, Canadian back on the Buck, Skies over to the Yana one more time, and of course Panba onto the Sledge, since we are going to have that reattempt onto the basement defense here from the players on beastcoast. A few changes in beastcoast lineup as well, but nothing tectonically shifting here as they're just going to try to slow things down a little bit. Xeno, of course, bringing those Banshees into the fold to try and stop it, and of course Surf adding a little bit more intel with the Valkyrie cameras being added to the defensive lineup too.
Always a big fan of the Banshees coming in. Malusi, one of the strongest ops that we have on defense, and never a bad time to bring her either, especially since she has that BP as well as, I do believe, impacts as her secondary, so she can do so much for your defensive squad.
Wow.
Nitro Cell out, no damage either to the DarkZero lineup. Actually quite surprised by that one. It seemed like Mark had the lineup, but not going to pay off, unfortunately enough, for beastcoast. They do still have this top floor defense working swimmingly for them. Surf is going to be over here inside of Cash, and no one bearing down on his location just yet. But as soon as I say that, Eclipse is going to be popping open the CCTV wall, so it seems to be just a time thing, not really as a if it's going to happen type of beat. So beastcoast will stick to their guns on their roam here. DarkZero not donning the doorstep just yet.
Because they're still very patiently waiting from their extended positions. Mark is going to get caught out, I believe, over the top of Jim, so he'll be forced to rotate away over towards construction. And JR, of course, already self-inserted all the way towards Logi through the hatch, but he's very much alone in this position. So we'll wait to see if they can catch any of the movement from players like Mark, potentially when they try to move downstairs. You can see here as well, Surf set up in a little bit of a position to try to counter out players that may be trying to go over to the hatch position where Mark would rotate into. The patience from NJR pays off, though, as he's going to end up finding Mark first, taking him down as he attempts to move out of that bathroom, and sets up DZ as well for a 5v4. Still plenty of players to knock out, though, and a little over a minute to go, so DZ will need to start to speed things up pretty soon.
Yeah, DarkZero are lurching to the finish line, but that doesn't mean that they can cross, or rather can't cross in first place. Some nice angles here adopted by the Buck. It's going to apply a lot of pressure to Surf, force his move, and Skies will take him down. As we were talking about earlier, Skies back into a position where we saw him very early in his career, and honestly, one of the most fun people to watch in an aggressive position. Skies always fantastic decision-making when it comes to more of these aggro looks, and able to at least get one, looking to go for the drop with Pambazoo and everybody else as they'll try and swing and take down these players. Xeno will be able to at least take out Skies. The pistol won't get it for Eclipse, though. And now the back of Armory open for the taking. Slash has something to say about this, though. Constant Marks out. He's the lone soul for beastcoast. They know exactly where he is as well. The plant will start, but it'll be NJR through the wall of Armory to take him down. Eclipse will shake off that round, and DarkZero will take it.
DarkZero going to be feeling a lot more confident about themselves probably after these two successful basement attacks. They had to take it very, very carefully to make sure they didn't get tripped up. Was otherwise the fairly successful shenanigans that beastcoast had been deploying towards on the attacking side. For the defense, though, it is not working nearly as much. So a much more solid lead has been put up by our attackers here for the second half, of course. And that leaves beastcoast somewhat struggling to try to figure out where they can net this first round. They're going to attempt to do it upstairs in gym and bedroom. Is 2 times in a row on the basement defense. Not even coming close, unfortunately, as well. It's just not going to leave them with enough confidence to go for it a third time.
beastcoast on the offenses were doing a pretty bang-up job, I'd say, especially with some of the initial picks that they were able to get and some of the translations that we saw beastcoast go for inside of their rounds. But now that DarkZero's on the offense and they have control over this pacing, beastcoast hasn't been able to deal, like a death nail or anything to DarkZero inside of a round to where it's just so overly complicated. They really don't have a means to be able to get back into it. DarkZero constantly ahead of the curve when it comes to beastcoast. Even if the man count is equal. DarkZero still have quite a bit of what they need in order to enact themselves upon the site later into the round and pull that back. So for Beast Coast, it's really an attempt to try and get in front of DarkZero's game plan, but we need to see how they can potentially switch this up. We haven't really seen a great job of, trying to find refrag potential or anything of the sort, so it might be a big change in the means of how they're trying to set up some of these sites and how they're just trying to position themselves around each other. But kind of a bigger fold here, I'd say, is Canadian. He's going to actually go back to the colleague that we saw him using last week on Club.
Now, this is, of course, going to be one of the few operators that has the capability to actually destroy gadgets outright through walls via her utility, so that may be part of why they're trying to bring this one in. Of course, specifically for Gym Bedroom, the overwatch from the outside of the two main rappel points as well is going to be potentially a way for Canadian to set himself up for some early downs when things get chaotic inside of the site scramble. A lot of reasons, actually, why she could potentially be brought in, but still a very strange pick when we do see her, of course. That's very, very rare, but I think in this situation, it should work pretty well for DZ's attacking lineup. It's just going to be a little rough if they lose a few players on the roam clear here. Then they definitely would have probably liked to have a more traditional operator. Thankfully, things are working out in regards to that. Skies will be able to take down Slash and get a nice start going for DZ.
Well, he's going to set up the zero cam as well. I don't know if Surf got that. It's like 1 or 2 plays he could have potentially went for there. Try and kill the man that just set the cam, or kill the cam and get out of there before somebody knows that you're in the area. Surf, he's taking so much heat, and he's going to stay in the lane as well. An ego on this guy. Pambazu will gun him to the ground, as he doesn't expect anybody to be on rappel. DarkZero setting themselves up for victory here in round 9.
Members of DarkZero, indeed, just looking for that final setup to get themselves there. They're pretty much all but ready to move in. As we can see, the last few members of Beast Coast trying to get themselves out of the hot zone. You can now already tell Pamba has moved fully into the site, taking control. Mark's not even going to realize that they've lost that site control as well, so he'll go down outright to Pamba. Zeno is the only one left, as the other teammate for BC also fell in that scramble. And Zeno won't even see what hit him as Pamba continues his conquest into construction to take out the last player on BC. That's DZ now, surging ahead with just one more round to go.
DarkZero didn't have to put a single person inside of that building on an aggressive front minus Skies, and Skies was only there to stop the rat downstairs.
I mean, that's one of the benefits of Cali, right? Because to an extent, you're going to have a similar effect to Glass, where it's like, oh, I'm not peeking that.
That's true, yeah.
Especially for the windows in sight.
Yeah, exactly. So it is quite the big threat when Kali is on the field like that, but past that, it only becomes difficult for Kali when it comes to like CQC fights. You really have to try and benefit off of that secondary pistol. Luckily enough, she has a fantastic secondary pistol, but that's when obviously kind of the wheels fall off the sniper rifle. And even inside of that round, you saw Canadian only got a kill with the secondary pistol, but it's exactly what you were talking about.
It's more the fear.
Having that pressure out there, instilling the fear of God in the defense and making sure they know if they try and hop out, they're going to eat a Magnum bullet. It's definitely something to try and force the defense to adhere to caution. Works out well for DarkZero, up 6-3 right now after they decimate the defensive setup of BC in the last round.
DC was expecting to see another upstairs defense show up here. To an extent, you're still going to get that from Beast Coast, of course, but it's just going to be, I believe we're in bar, actually, for this hold now.
We are indeed. Bar billiards, not bar gaming, remember. Bar billiards.
So we are going to see how the players on Beast Coast will be able to extend themselves out to appropriate this setup for
bar
themselves.
Stage. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, bar. I was about to say. Didn't want to correct you in the moment.
Hey.
Either way.
Professional, by the way.
Semantics. As we move deeper into this round, we are going to see, of course, that very slow and cautious approach from DarkZero. They know that Beast Coast are out and about. They should have been able to figure that out pretty quickly from just their general droning that was done in the drone phase itself. But where exactly Beast Coast are going to try to take some risks and maybe even hop out, that is still yet to be seen. And the operator lineup probably throwing them off a little bit as well. Not something we've seen really from Beast Coast so far throughout this one, so they do have to watch out for quite a few of these utility pieces and analyze the interior building setup before they try to get too adventurous.
All right, well, Skies throwing himself around this operator roulette. Still actually land on Thatcher for this one. I do believe this is going to be the first time that we've seen Thatcher inside of this game, and those EMP is going to be the utmost assistance in getting these walls open. DarkZero also worried about what's going on over on the cash side, and they'll find themselves a Legion. That'll be Surf awaiting the arrival of DarkZero.
Surf just waiting for the lineup to happen, and he's going to get it perfectly. Panba tries to creep his head out just a millimeter, but it's a millimeter too much. Surf cuts it off here. Still no additional counter pressure coming out against him as well. We have two other players trying to work their way back in from the top garage catwalk, as well as the breach that had been made. But Surf, he's already adjusted for this, backed up, and now that's the case getting dropped by him as Eclipse goes a bit too far out to try to take the next duel.
Yeah, sticking their neck out, and it continues to get chopped at by Beast Coast. Slash will take down Canadian. DarkZero not allowed to cross the finish line just yet, especially if Beast Coast have something to say about it. And JR and Skies will have to try and get through the thick of these woods, as Skies will be over in cons on his lonesome. He's got two people bearing down on his location, and JR will take out one. Skies is immediately going to hightail it towards the outside window here for CCTV, but instead I do believe that they're rotating down low. Might potentially try and go for this stage plant here, and JR can potentially try and take out Slash, but there's so many long angles to worry about downstairs. It's going to be hard fought for DarkZero either way you slice it, and JR will at least be able to get control of Billiards, but Surf going to make mincemeat of him. It's a triple kill for him on the round, make it a quad as he pre-fires Skies off the angle and stage. Beast Coast stay alive.
Incredibly successful upstairs hold from Beast Coast, and one that I think DarkZero expected to be a little bit more straightforward there, trying to walk themselves into it, just not ready for the immediate challenges being thrown at them from the CCTV side, and they just continue to bleed players down past that point, thinking that Beast Coast would be playing this very conservative, very held-back style, but that's not the way you win a bar stage defense. It's very much the opposite will oftentimes excel you into a winning spot, and that's how Beast Coast managed to get things done. DarkZero thrown for a loop there, but it's only for one round. We still have two more that Beast Coast need to make up for, and this is the big problem now for Beast Coast. That's the only site upstairs in bar that they've found success so far in this half.
Yes, indeed. And now we head back down low. But good news is that we've got some solid denial as well as some solid slowdown for Beast Coast, trying to get in front of DarkZero here. We do have those Banshees, but the biggest factor of this obviously being the info game that BC are bringing to the table, and the likes of Valkyrie and Pulse. We're looking for Slash especially to get away with a lot here. Surf is more set it and forget it. He'll more than likely be allowed to just roam around, potentially try and get some kills here and slow down DarkZero in that way. So he'll set up the rest of his cameras as DarkZero will get out and onto the field. We're going to have the Jackal back into play, but everything else making quite a bit of sense. Sky is going to continue to rotate around to different ops as he will allocate himself to the Nook this time.
Time will continue to tick down. We will have the players from DarkZero still being very cautious about their opening moves here, setting themselves up for success already. On the dirt tunnel walk-in that we can see at least the sledge Panba is going to be set up prematurely to try to work his way into. The rest of the team wants to try and go for a bit of a top-down approach. You can see Eclipse is going to be heading up to the roof to try and open up the hatch there. Flush out the positions for Mark and a few of the other players on Beast Coast. Will take a lot to burn them out, those. They'll certainly be brimming with confidence after the events of the previous round here. They know they can take challenges against them in those unexpected positions, but they need to do it sooner rather than later. If they give DZ all of this time, there's no longer the restriction of the first floor bar area, of course, being cut off since it's going to be the site, so DZ should be able to find out the positions of Mark and these other players relatively quickly. That means that their time to strike is going to be limited.
Well, let's also act like it's not hidden either, because they more than likely know that there's two members upstairs. This is just the default roam strategy for Clubhouse. You usually have two bodies up top, and DarkZero want to try and get ahead of them and make sure they're not allowed to rotate out, because these are practically free kills if they're able to cut them off. But looks like main stairs is still right for the taking for BC, as at least be able to get control at the bottom of it, pseudo guaranteeing that they'll be able to make it back to site. Canadian taking a lot of heat here, putting himself in hot water inside of kitchen, about half of his HP gone. But DarkZero has a lot going on all at once right now. NJR as well as Skies both clearing out up top. Don't know if Surf got found or Mark, but we'll just have to see.
JR still waiting for a chance to strike, has not been able to get it just yet here, but time getting low now. That's exactly what Beast Coast wants to have happen here. DarkZero be forced into a scramble to execute where they're going to make mistakes and where Beast Coast players are going to go unnoticed, and they can pop out and pick up some free kills on their own that hopefully won't be traded back. DarkZero, very, very slow lead up to this one, and we can see NJR getting very close to the position of at least one of the members of Beast Coast sitting further down those main stairs positions, but it looks like that player may have given that up, fell back further into the site. Regardless, it's going to be Slash that finally gets the first kill of the round at only 40 seconds to go.
Huge issue now for DarkZero. Beast Coast with so many bodies on site are able to try and slow down the entire take all at once. And not only that, DarkZero have lost every fight minus Eclipse flying in. Pambazoo with some big kills though. We've somehow been able to get this to a 2v2, and not only that, Eclipse quite close to Pamba, but no, he actually has to try and shift across. He's actually going to try and combat the man upstairs. He gets some shots. He'll take down Slash. DarkZero, there's no way you can get it done here. Mark, he gets the kill, but he can't get it onto Pambazoo. Oh my, the saving grace of DarkZero throughout all of Clubhouse does it again, as DZ will take Dubhouse.
So DZ are able to recover, closing out that last round. Quite a scrappy few final rounds as we got towards the tail end of our first half.